In today's video, I'm going to give you 7 tips for creating B-roll of your drone. So my first tip is to consider using a nice zoom lens with some nice shallow depth of field, nice low aperture, because you want to create a difference between the wide angle shot of your drone and just having that point of interest, having that little bit of a difference. This is the 85mm 1.8 Sony, which I like to use as much as possible on my A7SIII. Just because you've got that 1.8 doesn't necessarily mean you'll always use it. You do have to sometimes have to judge. If you're getting really close to the drone, I probably wouldn't stop it all the way down to 1.8. I'd go more like 2.5, 2.8. Otherwise it can just look a little bit too blurred out. You're only going to have one point in focus, whereas you might want to see the propellers a little bit as well. Especially when you're close up, you don't want to have too low an aperture. It's one of these things where we see a lot in review videos, oh, go for 1.4, go for 1.8. Doesn't necessarily mean you should always go that low though. It's nice to have it and it can be very handy. In certain contexts, going that low can be really good. The next tip is to consider just using your normal camera on a tripod. Remember, the drone is already moving, so you don't always have to be using a gimbal. It actually creates a nice point of interest because generally our drone will be going past things, will be doing orbits. So having a camera stationary just on a tripod, just letting the drone spin round, letting the propellers move. You don't always need to move it, and this it can be a lot easier to set up these shots because you don't always have to be carrying a gimbal around with you or another cameraman around with you. You can just take your drone, your tripod, camera, and then you've got all you need to create amazing B-roll as a solo creator. So it's a very empowering setup actually. The next tip is to do the frame rate. Now, I still like 60 frames per second. I know some people out there saying, oh, 60 frames has been done, but I just think it looks nice when you have that drone and it sets off in your hand, it's a bit of slow motion afterwards. But this is a preference thing, you know, if you want to film at 24 frames, go for it. You can still create some really nice B-roll shots. With your B-roll as well, you don't leave them for too long, 2 seconds maximum. It's just that little thing to just show people how you created the work. People love to see behind the scenes footage. So it tells the overall picture rather than just seeing drone shot after drone shot after drone shot. The next tip is to vary the angle of your B-roll. Consider doing some top-down shots, consider doing wide shots, close-up shots. Just the more the better, the more variety you've got. There's a phrase in filming called kill your babies, and this is true with anything. You want to have more than enough footage. Just because you filmed it doesn't mean you should use it all. So having as much choice as possible, then slimming it down afterwards when you come to editing it, that is going to make a huge amount of difference, having that mentality. The next tip is, I still believe if you're a drone pilot, you should always put your drone shots first. If you're going out with your main camera, it's nice to have some B-roll, but I don't want to be in the main part of golden hour if I'm at a location that I'm never going to go back to again. I don't want to be really filming myself, I want to focus on the drone. The good news is, after the sun has gone down, you can still get some really nice lighting, and I used it in this shoot here. At this point of the shoot, it's really gone too dark for my drone, but my A7SIII, it's not a problem. So I'm just creating some bonus B-roll at this point. The lighting still looks really good. If I tried to do this shot at middle of golden hour, it probably wouldn't look as nice because it'd be too harsh on a person. So after the sun's gone down a little bit, you still get some nice lighting, and it can be perfect timing to get some B-roll shots. So the next tip, and I know said before, you don't need to use a gimbal, but if you do have the opportunity to use one, then you can create some nice pullback shots. If you've got your friend working the camera, think about the same way that your drone can pull back. You can do this with just the cameraman just walks further back and then maybe do a speed ramp. So you show the drone, walk further back, speed ramp, and then it reveals where you are, it reveals the environment. Just exactly the same as the drone shot. So it's one of the really cool things about when you might start off just being a drone pilot, and then you learn these different drone moves, and you can apply it to normal videography as well. So the final tip is, maybe you don't have an SLR yet, but you can still create some pretty cool shots on iPhones these days. Definitely when you're in a squeeze and you haven't got your other camera, maybe you haven't got one yet, I still think it's worth doing. Let's have a quick go now with the iPhone, send the drone up. And I've not done this before, but I'm going to use the cinematic mode and have it at 3x zoom. That'll be really interesting to see. Let's have a look at what we can capture. But I would recommend increasing the aperture, because at the moment, if you just do it out of the box, it creates a little bit of a blurry mess sometimes around things. So I put my aperture sometimes at 7, sometimes 9, and also decrease the exposure down to 0.3 or even 0.7, because the iPhone does tend to overexpose. It's not as good as a normal camera, but when you're out and about, the stabilization is really good, and it can create a bit of shallow depth of field, at least show behind the scenes footage. And honestly, sometimes I do just go out with the drone and the iPhone. I want to have a rest, I don't want to take too much stuff with me. And it's just amazing the portability with this. Do you know what? Pretty impressed with that. Now obviously I haven't yet looked at it on the main screen, but just for a little bit of B-roll when you're holding these shots for 1-2 seconds, pretty good. This is the iPhone 13 Pro as well, so some of you guys might even have the 14 Pro, which then gives you that in 4K as well. And I wasn't even using a gimbal, so I could use a phone gimbal to have even more stability, even create a little bit of a orbit. Shall I do that quickly?